Are we on? Turn it on. Hit it. Oh, okay. Okay, let's get started. Welcome to week 8. Once again, if you have any questions about anything that you've seen about your project, deadlines, questions about parts or reports or presentations, please let me know. That's what I'm here for. Got the standard forms here for students that are working on team projects. Please grab one of these forms and fill it out this class session. This is from the Haas Center for Public Service. They're the ones that sponsor Cardinal courses, of which this is one. And it represents what's called community engaged learning, where we learn about stuff in the community, work with community people. And this is their way of assessing how well the course is doing. So again, if you're a student working on a team project, please fill this out. Okay, there's just enough for the people who are working on teams, so that'd be great if you do that. So I'm almost done with the marking up the project reports. I got just a couple to go, so tomorrow I'll have them all done, and I'll scan them and email them to the teams so that you'll see how well you've done. And it sort of looks like this. There's a lot of red in there, but that doesn't necessarily, more red does not necessarily mean you've done bad. It's just like comments, suggestions, and things like that. There's a lot of stuff that is due to formatting and other things. Some relate to syntax, spelling, grammar, stuff like that. So I've marked it all up. So one thing I should emphasize is that it should be like a professional engineering style report rather than a novel. For example, you shouldn't start out, it was a dark and stormy night when we first met our project partner, okay? So we want to make it look more scientific than a novel. Most of you got it right, but some needed a little bit more practice, which is exactly what the midterm reports are. So this is just a way of practicing this really important skill. And it's not just for me or your course or your grade, it's something that you can show to prospective employer because they want to know how well you can communicate. So whatever you write and whatever you present, those are skills that you're going to need no matter what business you're in after Stanford. Okay. So it seemed like, to me, that everybody had a good time last Thursday. Because every picture I have is somebody smiling. So I hope it was more than just fun. I hope it was, you gained some knowledge there as well. So I hope you could synthesize what you saw and experienced into knowledge about inclusiveness and accessibility and the importance of play and having a place for kids with disabilities to play. So, right. So we're sort of at the end of the term, but I want to tell you about what's coming up. It's going to be equally exciting. Thursday, in this very room, it will be converted to an assistive technology fair. There are 20 vendors that have signed up to show you their products and services. And there's a couple service dog training companies, a couple wheelchair companies, and all sorts of very interesting people who have products and who have services that help people with disabilities. So it's all going to be here. Never had one this big before. Not sure how it's going to work out, but it's going to be awesome. So please come by for that, starting at 4:30. A week from today, we're going to have a screening in the Peterson building, where my office is, in the atrium there. I'll have lots of popcorn and stuff, and we're going to be watching two films. One is a short film about Danny, a day in the life of Danny. It's really interesting. You can see a little bit more about his challenges. And then the other film we're going to see is called Fixed. It's about the science/fiction of human enhancement and augmentation. So it talks a lot about disability as well as super abilities and ableism and stuff like that. And it's a great film that I've seen several times. And a week from Thursday, our final guest lecturer will be Ralph Hotchkiss. He's going to be talking about wheelchairs in developing countries. This is an effort that he's been undertaking for a very long time, and so he's going to give a summarize about the design of the wheelchair and some of the people he's encountered in his many travels around the world. So that'll be here. And then week 10, the Tuesday of week 10 is the final presentations. So Tuesday, final presentations, much like the midterm presentations, but this is the end of the course. Same kind of timing, 7 minutes. The order is reversed from the midterms, and I'll let you know. So that's very formal, but on the last class session on Thursday will be project demonstration. So this is a time where everybody brings their physical prototypes to show off to other people and to show me how functional it is. So we're going to set up the tables like a trade show. Everybody will go around and see what everybody else has done. And this is the opportunity to ask the questions that you weren't able to ask during the presentations. And there will be burritos. Chloe, do you have a question? No. No. It's going to be just easy. It's going to be a lot of fun. The idea is very informal. People will just walk around. Other students, make sure you have set aside some time to walk around. Alternate who's representing your project, and make sure you have a chance to walk around and see what other folks have done. Okay, very important. Yes. No. No, final reports will be due in week 11. I'll send you information on that. In addition to final reports, there's the individual reflection. So each person who worked on the team project will submit a reflection, and I'll be sending you information on that. So the report, comes from your brain, and the reflection comes from your heart, how you experienced the class, your project, your community member, and stuff like that. Relatively short, just a couple pages. Okay. All right, I'll be sending you information on all this stuff. Okay, so 2 weeks until final presentations. So at this point in time, you should be finishing up. You should have all your tasks listed, figuring out who does what, and the timing of all that. And you should have purchased the parts that you might need, and figure out who's going to do fabrication and stuff like that. I would encourage you to put your team logo on your prototype, or Stanford logo, something like that. So that would be good to dress it up. Okay. So today I wanted to talk just a few minutes on innovation. I really have a bug about innovation. So I'm going to ask you a very fundamental question. Which one of these is the most innovative? We have fire, a weapon, the wheel, and the iPhone. Which is most innovative, and why? Yeah. The wheel? Okay, why? Yeah. Okay. Right, okay. Anybody else have a different selection? Chloe?
I'd say fire.
Okay.
Because it's what marked a lot of the transition in the history of humanity.
Right.
From more
Right.
notice.
Right. Anybody else have a different selection, and why? Well, this is pretty much the same as last year. So, in having you make this choice, you have to figure out in your own mind why something is innovative. Okay, and that's a hard thing to do because it's a very loosely defined term. For example, if I showed you this, several iPhones. Now let's say the big iPhone is 25% bigger. Is it 25% more innovative because of the screen size? Again, you have to use your own mental definition of what innovative is. So here's guys writing a book with our culture's obsession with innovation. So he defines innovation as the introduction of new things in society, but he also talks about innovation speak, the empty-headed and misleading ways people come to talk about technology and social change. So, to me, innovation is a very overused term. It's used everywhere. So I would have people focus on impact. Editor of ECN magazine, definition of innovation is very vague and seems to evolve. And I talked to this woman whose job was Chief Innovation Officer. And I asked her what innovation is to her, and says something both familiar and new. So that's yet another definition. And then people have taken this into satire. The word innovate said 650,000 times at this conference. So people understand the overuse of the term innovation. And there's even a real conference called Innovate the Way You Innovate, which is sort of meta confusing to me. So I'm going to ask you, is innovation a design feature of a device, a property of a device? Is it something that is, you have innovation or you don't have innovation? Why is innovation used? Because maybe somebody can't think of another appropriate word. But do people use innovation because it's easy to use and there's no way of measuring it? Or is it because there's a lack of measurement for a particular product, so you can't say anything about measured properties of a product, but you can say it's innovative, and how do you prove that? You don't. So what does it mean for a product, a person, an idea, a company, etc., to be innovative? Each one is different in my mind, and it gets down to the use of innovation as a measurement. There is no unit measure of innovation. There's nothing you can do to measure it. Yes? Well, you can certainly have having a patent doesn't mean the thing is innovative. There's been a lot of very simple patents, so that definition doesn't work. So why would people use a term like innovation if it doesn't have really a strong definition? Well, in my mind, innovation is not a scientific term, not an engineering term. So what's left? It's an advertising and marketing term that people use to promote their product. Saying something is innovative, is positive. But of course, in advertising, you don't have to prove how good your product is. You just got to get people to buy it. So my message to you is to beware of terms that describe a product or a person or something that you can't measure objectively. And some other examples that are coming up are artificial intelligence, machine learning, things like that. They're used everywhere, so it's become diffuse. So if you're going to use the word innovation in a report or in a presentation, you're going to have to tell me why your product is innovative, your project is innovative, and how you measured it. Okay? That's all I want to say about that. It's Thursday, Assistive Technology Fair here, but today we have Professor Steve Collins, and Steve received his BS in Mechanical Engineering in 2002 from Cornell, where he performed research on passive dynamic walking robots. Subsequently, He received his PhD in mechanical engineering in 2008 from the University of Michigan. Go Blue. Okay. Steve, we're going to have a break after. Okay, so you can set up them. Where he researched the dynamics and control of human walking. He also pursued postdoctoral research on humanoid robots. He was a professor of mechanical engineering and robotics at Carnegie Mellon for 7 years until a couple years ago when he joined us at Stanford in mechanical engineering. He teaches course on design and robotics and directs the Stanford Biomechatronics Lab. His primary focus is to speed and systematize the design and prescription of prostheses and exoskeletons using a versatile device emulator hardware and human-in-the-loop optimization algorithms. Another focus of his is efficient autonomous devices, such as highly energy-efficient walking robots and exoskeleton that use no energy, yet reduce the metabolic cost of walking. He's a member of the scientific board of Dynamic Walking and on the editorial board of Science Robotics. He has received the Young Scientist Award from the American Society of Biomechanics, the Best Medical Devices paper from the International Conference on Robotics and Automation, and he was voted by students to be the Professor of the Year in his department. So let's welcome Steve Collins, and we'll take a little break while we set up his computer.